This is Cassette Connection, the podcast where we discuss music and meaning with the people who make it. Hello, everyone. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Ben.
Welcome back to Cassette Connection for 2021.
Thanks.
The first episode. Who do we have on the show this week?
We have Sydney-based, Malaysian-born ambient electronic producer Heymun.
Nice. With Heymun, we talked about everything. We talked about her journey from Malaysia to Sydney, her beginnings in music, her picking up the guitar, her becoming a singer-songwriter, and then later stepping away from that to become this kind of ambient electronic producer. We talk about her vibe, her positivity, and everything gear. So sit back and enjoy.
Hello, my name is Heymun. I'm a Malaysian musician based in Sydney, Australia, and I'm here to chat about my music. So when I first came to Sydney, Australia, it was to study film. And I actually really wanted to get into music, but I don't know, my parents, I didn't even know how to approach that with my parents because I kind of didn't, I guess, really push my passion for music in the forefront. So I just thought, you know what, if I can't make music, maybe I'll just make music videos for musicians. That's the next best thing. That was really on the forefront of my mind. Like, let's just get into music video making. That way you can still be around your love for music, and then just be of good service, make some really cool videos. And I came to Sydney, I studied, I got a job at production houses, and I even worked on some projects in Fox Studios. And I remember one day I was sitting on my edit desk and the musician would come in and say, this is how I want my music video to be. And that feeling of, even though I thought I've reached that point of, wow, I'm at Fox Studios, I'm shooting a music video for one of these cool bands in Australia, I should feel so happy. I really should feel like maybe I accomplished one thing that I tried to do in my life. But I don't know, I was walking around Fox Studios that night and I just felt like something was still missing. And I thought, wait, this is how I should be really celebrating right now. Like, I'm a Malaysian girl who went to Australia. I'm in Fox Studios. So many wonderful things have been shot here. Like, I should feel like the journey's over. But it really hit me that it wasn't. And so after work, I went to buy a guitar. It was on sale. It was like $99. And I just thought, perfect. Since I've always felt a connection to music, why not? Let's just give it a go this time. And I remember just going on, just Google and looking for a couple of guitar chords I could start with. And after a couple of hours, I started writing my first song. And then I wouldn't stop playing the guitar for like 2 weeks straight. And then I messed up my pinky finger and I had to stop. And I just thought, okay, let's just go and try and play keys somewhere. You know how they had like Ellen's Music on Pitt Street? So they had that and they had this piano section upstairs. And I would just go there and be like, wow, I love music. And it was so naive of me, but I just thought, hey, I'm just going to go try to hit up some studios to record a demo of all of my songs. And I decided, I wrote 5 songs. I'm going to record these 5 songs. So I found someone and we recorded it. And then I put it onto Triple J Unearth. And that day I got an email and it said, hey, just want you to say hey and record something for our segment or something because we're going to give you radio airplay. And I just thought, whoa, really? For real? Okay. Because Triple J is so known in Australia that it really hits the radars of some label people. So someone emailed me and say, hey, meet you on Oxford, this venue, Oxford Art Factory. Come and have a chat. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And I just took my CD and then I just went there and they were like, oh, okay. So you're really so new to this. I'm like, yes, like a few weeks old, like really new. I don't know what this is, but I went to my studio. I went to a studio for the first time and I've never been in one before, but I'm keen. And then they were saying stuff like, okay, cool. You know, and they just kind of like kept tabs on me, followed my progress. And I decided to send that song into a songwriting competition in the US. And oh my gosh, I won. And I was just like, okay, what now? And then someone approached me and say, want to play a festival in New York, the CBGB festival? Okay, let's go. Again, band super naive, like in hindsight, like knowing what I know now, I was like, what?
From now to our young days, so tell me what you heard, kill me with your words. No, you can never hurt me after all this time.
So it reached a point where, because I was so green and I wasn't sure everything that came to me, I just said, hey, yes, I'll just give it a go, play a show. I realized that putting yourself in situations where you say yes all the time, it may not always be so great, because I experienced a lot of shocks for the first time. Like, oh, I'm in New York. Oh, I didn't know jet lag was so bad. Oh, I need to perform tonight. Oh, I'm going to fall asleep. There were so many things that I didn't know how to do, but I was doing on the go, that when I started getting offers, I just said, you know what? I need to stop. And I actually stopped for a couple of years. Like it after just that, you know, what felt like boom, I was like just shot into this thing. I really felt so strangely like super burnt out very quickly, and it wasn't sustainable in so many ways, like financially. How do people make this work? Like, you know, how do musicians actually survive? Like even me paying the musicians that were sessioning for me, it's like I felt like I was just hemorrhaging money all the time. I really felt like it was the most stressful time, because this is something I love so much, but I don't see it being sustainable, because I need to rent a studio. I needed to have a producer. I needed bandmates, because I could only play as much as I could play. Once it's time to perform, like, I'm not an octopus. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I stopped being on social media. I just stopped posting anything, and I just went into incubation. I just said, like, look, this is the time where you're going to learn everything. You're going to learn how to self-produce. You're going to make music sustainable for yourself, because if you love it so much, you have to make it work. Like, you have to make it in a way that you're not hemorrhaging money, you're not stressed, you're not starving. And, you know, so went back to work, but all of my free time, I was thinking, let's learn Ableton. I signed up for the Ableton Live School. I got into producing and I realized, wow, I love synths. I love producing. I love Ableton. I can't get enough. And I started to kind of zone in on, what is your sound? Find your voice. And the next time you're given opportunities, like, you know, you'll have a different foundation to face, you know, that musical landscape with. You won't feel like, oh, I don't know how to do that, but okay. Because sometimes it's cool to say yes, but sometimes it makes you feel like you're just free falling out of control, and too much of that is so unsustainable. So I wanted to be a little bit more, I guess, prepared for music. So yeah, it became, I think, 2 to 3 years of me really just making music. I've never told anyone this before, but I actually made music under a lot of pseudonyms during that time. Like, I just didn't want to do that Heymun thing anymore for a while. I just felt like, I was a bit traumatized because at the same time, to be honest, like, people were just saying, oh, you were in the national newspaper, you had some press and stuff, and you just disappeared. Like, what happened? And I was like, I'm still processing that. I really don't know. I just felt, at some times I just felt like, did I peak too soon? Was I too naive? Was I too green? But yet at the same time, why did these things happen? Was it to tell me that, no, there's something here, like you need to pursue it? But at the same time, it's like, I didn't have the tools. So I wanted to, I guess, I didn't even know if I was actually honestly gonna come back. Probably this podcast wouldn't even happen if I sat on that even a little bit longer. Because the longer that you not put out music, the longer that you kind of close off that side, I feel like a darkness can kind of envelop that music. You get really comfortable with the fact that, you know what? I don't care. It's not me. I don't love it that much. But obviously, I care. Obviously, there was a part of me that's thinking, oh, maybe I can be like, Daft Punk or something. I just never need to show myself again. And I can just wear a disguise or wear a cool costume or wear something and just no one will know it's me. And then I'll never have to deal with the ups and downs of music where it's my reputation and my name and, like your failures and your success. Like, it just feels so close. But I reached a point where one day I was just driving, my car past Macca's, and then like I was just listening to some music, and I just realized, yeah, I think I'm ready to post all of the music that I've been sitting on for 2 to 3 years. And I just went back home and I just uploaded it. And that was 3 years ago when I came back, and things started moving again. Like, things started moving at a pace that I felt like, oh, okay, things are happening again. So be very, very grateful, but also take what you can take, and be honest about where you are. It's important to put that humanness back into being musicians. And that was one thing I wanted to do when I came back. If I had any opportunity, I just want to tell people where I was at. And I want to show the downsides as well on my Instagram and socials and the process of me filming a video. I never want people to think, oh, that's just because she is good at doing music or she has so-and-so skills. No, I want people to know that I work really, really hard to even do this and this video or this clip. And we're human. Like, it's not just a highlight reel, I guess. Because I felt like during the time that I was struggling, what I was seeing on the outside was, oh, some people are made to be musicians and I just don't cut it. I have to bow out. And when I came back, I just like, no way. I don't want anyone to feel like that ever again. If I have a platform and if people even follow me if they love my music and they follow me for that, I still want them to know, like, there's so much more that we can share, like the tough times, the funny times, the human times.
So tell me what you heard, kill me with your word. But you can never hurt me after all this time. I screamed, spit, I cried. I thought you would never hurt me, but after all this time, John, tell me with your lies. Now you try to hurt me after all this time.
Were you learning music before you picked up the guitar, or were you singing before that, or was it just you picked up the guitar and you went from there?
Yeah, Sydney was where everything really started for me, because, it never, like, no matter what I was playing in the past, like growing up as a kid, it never really stuck. But for some reason, it really took me coming to Sydney and going to work and meeting musicians and being at my job. I realized that, some things just never really go away. I had this connection with music as a kid where most of the time, the people that I knew, they would listen to music to relax and go to sleep. But every time I listen to music, I get really, really awake. I can stay up on one song for 24 hours. And at sleepovers, all of my friends are just like knocked out. And I'm the only person still at the CD player. And people around me like, that's not how you have a sleepover, Heymun. Oh my gosh, like, you bored your friends to death. I'm like, no, this one song, I don't know what it is. Like, I would always fixate on music. And I remember in college when I was studying film, in Malaysia, I would just join these talent competitions and I'd win maybe second place. I'm like, fair enough. The number one person deserves to, fine. It's just not cut out for me. I think there was so much of me that didn't know that you can just do music. There's a lot of space for everyone. I'm a very rules person. If someone said no, I'd be like, cool. So you can't do this. All right. Very non-confrontational and like, good vibes, please, So with music, I always felt like I had a connection, but I just never really went for it. I just danced around it. And I keep telling myself, actually, even before I signed up for film school, I was standing outside of a music school in Malaysia. And I was standing outside and I was thinking, should I just go and inquire what it takes to be a part of a music academy? No, I just turned around and I just left. And I remember I would just stand outside thinking, why, whose permission do I need? Like what confidence do I need? And that's the thing. Being creative, sometimes there's so much more insecurities than people realize. They think creative people are just like, free to express ourselves. But we can be really, really insecure sometimes. And speaking for myself, I was so terrified to fail at something I haven't even done yet. Because I felt like that love was so real. Like, can I go in? Can I inquire? Can I do this? No. I just, if it doesn't work out, like, I won't be too crushed. So I just, went to film school. So I study film from, my degree all the way up to my master's. Like I did the whole Masters of Film thing in University of Sydney. But while I was doing the whole film thing, I was really doing the whole film thing. Like, I'm quite a serious student kind of person because, it costs a lot for me to, from Malaysia, come to Sydney to get my education. So I really couldn't mess that up. And at that time, like, my visa requirements was that, attendance, marks, grades. Like, I wasn't messing around. Like, I was like, do good in your school. And then, when I transitioned, and I got a job and everything, I started to feel a little bit more relaxed. I started to feel like, maybe I could do a little bit of music in my free time. And I remember my grandma passed away when I was in Sydney, and it was really like shocking. I remember when I went back and I was back in Malaysia, I was there with my mom, and I was thinking about my future a lot. I was thinking, like, what do I really want to do if I come back to Australia, like, what I need to do something that I really want to do in life, because my grandma's gone, and my mom was just so devastated, and I was just with her that whole time, just trying to be there for her. But that plane ride back to Australia, I just sobbed like that 8 hours straight. I just could not stop crying. I was just like, you better use your time wisely when you're away from your family, Heymun. You better not do anything that you don't really want to do, okay? and I just thought, you know what, go get that guitar, go make some music, live a life worth living. And all the struggle started after I picked up that guitar. Things had to get worse before they get better, But yeah.
How did you find performing? Because jumping into a performance as someone who, is brand new to something can be pretty daunting.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. When I said yes to things, I was just like, should be like singing to my sofa at home, right? Because I had a sofa bed. I'm just like, you're my audience. You're going to like this song? Yes. And I was singing to furniture most of the time. And when I went to play my first show, I saw furniture and I was so comfortable. She's like, empty room suits me. Don't let people in. Do not let anyone in, please. And the person at the venue in New York was just like, no, we're going to let people in. We want to fill up this. Just like, no, I want to play to that couch over there, that sofa and that bar stool. That's perfect for me. And he was laughing so much. He's like, where are you from? I was like, I'm from my apartment in Sydney, Australia. And I'm scared of people. I actually don't have many friends either, so please, this is too much for an introverted person right now. And he just let the doors open and people came in. And I think for a solid couple of minutes, I'm like, that's too many. And that room wasn't that big. It was just like a handful of people. I'm just like, I'm sweating in places I've never sweat before. Can my palms sweat this much? I know these songs like the back of my hand, but I can't move my hands. I did it. I went into this like super shock mode and I just sang and I played it. I can't remember anything at all. And I feel like other bands that came and went before me, they were like, in the zone. I felt like the stage was their home. And for me, I just felt like someone threw me into like an ice bath and I was just frozen the whole time and I was still shaking after. And the whole thing that went through my mind was just like, you got to work on this. You have to go back to Australia and work on this because you can't be so scared like that. But I had this autopilot side of me, but it didn't feel natural at all. So I also, when I went to Ableton Live School, I also realized like, I really like being behind the desk. I really like producing. I really like the work behind the scenes. But I think that's familiar to me as well because working in film and video, I was always behind the scenes. I'm always on the table. I'm always behind the camera. So I'm so familiar with that environment of looking at things from the outside, looking in. So from the inside, looking out at people, I'm like, I don't, does this come naturally to every musician? Do you all love, the lights are so hot, right?
behind the boards, so to speak, or being the producer was very similar to being in your role as a film editor or in your film work. Are there any other similarities you find between the two?
Actually, I almost felt like it was a relief when I started to do more of the music stuff, because I was really, really used to the hours. And like, for example, it's very normal for me to wake up at 3 a.m. and just be on set at 4:30. And with music, now that I'm doing everything on my own, I realize that you have to have endurance. Like, you almost have to be your own cheerleader, and you got to be your own producer, and you have to be your own marketing, be your own branding. With film, I felt like I was just doing one thing. Like, if I'm editing, I'm just editing. If I'm on set, I'm just on set. I think being now in music, I realized that, wow, we have it cut out, man. Like, look at the musical landscape that we're in that's ever changing. Welcome Spotify, like, it's so many game changers of how to push your music out. Am I going to go the Bandcamp route? But with film, it's a team effort. And with music, for me, it just felt like a complete solo effort. The only similarity was I'm on my desk again for a long, long periods of time. But in terms of the workload, I used to think I cannot go on. Like, I worked on a TV series and I literally felt like if I don't sleep for 6 minutes, I won't wake up ever again, because I was so tired. But with music, it just never stops. I realized that, and I'm on my own, where most of us are on our own. And I don't know how it works in a band as well, because I've never really had a band experience before. I've only had people who came to the studio, played instruments, or played in a show with me for just once or twice. So yeah, I don't find too many similarities, except the fact that I'm on this desk for literally sometimes 12 to 20 hours straight. When I pick a gear, like, I'm just so obsessed with it. I'm so fixated with it. And I don't have a lot. I don't have, like, well, it's not fair to say, but I guess musicians' definition of how much gear is just, it varies, right? But for me, I have my staples that I'm really, really connected to, like my OP1. Oh my gosh, like the day that I held it, I just never let it go. I've had it since 2018, and I still make weekly uploads. I just made one this morning using the OP1 to trigger cello sounds. And the way that I see gear, it's like they're my family 100%. Like, they all have names. They all have their rooms to sleep in right behind me. If you can see, they have their designated spot. And I don't know why, but I've always felt a really serious connection with gear. Even that first guitar that I got, that $99 guitar, it's still here. And the day I held it, the day I played it, and when those songs come out, that bond gets even stronger, because I know that, like, this is the song that this is the guitar that I wrote my song on, and it was the first time that I'm expressing myself in that way. And I realized that when I hold the guitar, I have a specific way of writing music. It always goes into a very folk singer-songwriter style. And then when I hold the OP1, it just goes full ambient. It brings out a side of me that I've never explored before. And then I got the POM 400. I call it PO. And it was the first time I touched modular. It taught me how to, oscillators, filters, VCAs, and like all these things. And that bond, like, and appreciation and gratitude towards that gear, it just never goes away because it's teaching me how to think differently. It's teaching me how to express differently. And without these gears, like, I probably wouldn't have gone into electronic music. I probably wouldn't have made the music that I'm making because they speak to you, when you actually spend an insane amount of time with your gear, something just happens. And I see them so often that they do bring out a side of me each time. Even this morning, I've never really played the cello on an OP1 before, but I was just digging and digging and digging. I was just like, what do we have today? And you got to show me more that you have today. And I want to know more about you. And I never really do the same thing that I've done before. I always try to be like, okay, I've used this engine before. Now I want to use this sequencer. I've used this sequencer before. Now I want to hear a different sound. Or use the same sequencer, but in a different way. It really opened up this side of me that gear can really blow your mind. So choose wisely. I see what it can do, and I'm going to go get it. Like, I never actually have a sound in mind, or this is the kind of album I want to make, or this is the kind of stuff I want to experiment. I look at it and I just go, what's the opposite of that? Because I remember when I first saw the OP1, there was a lot of like tape action, right? And when I first got it, I was just like, what else? Like, can this ambient? Like, what's a tombola? Let's spin this. I want to, like, I don't know if it's just my nature, but what's done is great. But you always want to know what you can do with it just between the both of you. You just want to like put that out of your mind. Like, I remember the first time that I saw the OP1 video was from a guy named Lucanti on Instagram, and we've connected now. And I even told this person, like, hey, you're the reason why I got the OP1, because I was doing a Stranger Things cover on my piano, and the next suggested video was Stranger Things on the OP1. And I had a look at the entire breakdown of that, and I just went, okay, this machine can take a lot of layers, and it can make a beautiful full track. What else do I need to know? This is a beast, right? And I just went, I don't need to know anything else. Like, I just wanted to get it. So when I got it, it showed me that, wow, Teenage Engineering has really, really great ideas. What else do they make? Then I got the POM 400. But before this came out, I was already very interested in modular synthesizers. It was already, you can't do ambient music or electronic music without seeing modular synths everywhere. It's literally like, it's gonna get you, you're just gonna go down that road somehow. And I remember straight after buying the OP1, I was itching for a modular synth, like a Euro rack of my own. I was like, stop it, you can't afford it, stop it. And I was looking at the Buchla Music easel and I was like, stop it, it's $6,000. Who are you? So I just said, no. Rule number one, once I get a gear, I need to master it and I need to make an album out of it. So did that, made that album, put it out on Spotify, and I was just like, okay, now I can buy. I was like, now I can go modular. But so before I went with the POM 400, I needed a semi-modular. And I knew that Moog had the grandmother, and I've kind of seen it at the store. And I really love the design, and obviously I love Moog very, very much. Like, the sound is just unmistakably amazing. So the first thing I got was the Moog app, the Moog Model 15 app, just to see like, oh, okay, just spend a little bit and just see if you really want to dive into the world of Moog, even though I already know the answers, yes, but justifying to yourself as a musician that, see, I'm being really rational. I'm not taken over by gear acquiring syndrome. I'm not suffering from gas today. I'm a really rational musician. Nope, got the Moog Model 15 app immediately, purchased the grandmother Moog, had fun with it, and just went, yeah, I want to go full modular. And the day that I wanted to get the OPZ, Teenage Engineering launched the POM 400. I ordered that. It came into the picture. And then slowly I started building my Eurorack palette, which only has 3 modules, but so yeah, slowly getting there. So usually I will pick, the gear for the day. If I've just decided, okay, today I feel like playing with the OP1, I'm going to make a video for that for my weekly YouTube channel. I'll just bring one gear in. And if I feel like I want to add another gear, I usually just kind of let's just focus on one thing and make that shine. So like, for example, I'll just switch on the OP1, just decide like, okay, I feel like spinning the tombola today, haven't spinned it in a while. I'll spin that. And whatever it needs around that, I'll just season it. It's kind of like cooking. Like if you're just cooking a beautiful piece of fish or a vegetable, you just want that main ingredient to shine. And everything around that for me is just a little bit of salt, just a little bit of seasoning, and yeah, I'm quite into that whole minimalist thing where if someone's listening to my music, I want them to feel like there's a lot of room to think, a lot of room to breathe, and a lot of room to question, like, what's that sound? When's that layer coming in? Or not question at all and just enjoy the music, But there's always something that is on the forefront on each of my tracks or each of my videos. It's so people can just enjoy that. Just focus on that one piece of ingredient.
In terms of deciding on what's going to go on an album, how am I going to make a song for an album and what's going to go on that? Does that drastically differ from what you're doing on YouTube, where you're doing kind of those explorations of the one piece of gear?
Yeah, I think with an album, I feel like I've approached it very differently. There are songs that it's just a 60-minute jam that I put on Instagram, I put on my YouTube channel. But then there are some songs that I expand and they usually are very quick. Like when I get to that 3-4 minutes and I can feel like the bones are there, the flesh is there, and it's quite set. I just know that this is an album song because something feels very different. This doesn't feel like an instant something that I just want to let go and be like, cool, see you all next week on the YouTube channel. The album has always had a story. It's like each track, like the recent album that I released, HYMN, him, it's like, it felt like chapters of a story that I was vomiting out throughout that year, things I can't really digest in person. And those songs, whenever I hear them, like get really sad and I get really triggered and I realize, oh, this is not a jam. This is not a 60-second thing. I need to revisit this and I need to flesh this out and I need to build this more and I need to feel like it's done and then I can move on. So yeah, album and jams, quite separate approach, I realize. Like the songs will just indicate to you that no, there's more you haven't finished saying and there's something here that you should develop and you feel a connection. jams I just do as explorations. In that 1 minute, I feel like, I have nothing more to spin. I'm good. But with songwriting, I always feel that lyrics tell a story. The way you produce it, tell the other layer of the story. And then the way you kind of wrap it up also tells a story. So I realized the work that it takes to make an album and make the whole thing sing as a whole thing. Oh, the art to that is, it's a whole different ball game, So I usually try to make music at the studio almost every day. Like if I have extra time, like the idea of music to me is almost like a diary. Like just keep getting closer to your instruments, keep that connection really close, because the closer you are to Ableton, your gear, the quicker all of these stored feelings come out. So in the last 3 years, it was all about building discipline, building that muscle of the minute you sit down, you're going to express yourself. So whatever feeling that you're feeling is going to be that raw feeling, and then you're going to work on that song when it comes out. So a lot of the songs from that album, it was just me every day, just like, I'm feeling heavy, I'm going to write something today. I don't know how to tell my friends or people around me how I feel. This is the safe place to do it. And then a few songs started poking their heads out. Like I just realized that this one is trying to say things that I would never say in real life to, how sometimes you're just so mad and you're so sad and you're just so, and then you don't want to cause any trouble. Like you don't want to be like, hey, hello, that thing that happened a few years ago? I'm not cool with that. Like I just would never go there. But musicians, like we're sensitive people, and sometimes we hold on to things a little longer than we should. And music's the only way to really say things without causing much more problems, So a lot of the music's really cryptic on my side, lyrics wise. I'm not here to, cause any ruckus, but I'm also here to be honest. So there are some lyrics that I know that, you're still sad about that situation, so why don't you talk about it? And then the lyrics will just come out as I'm playing the music. I can just hear words. I just hear the words and I just write them down on my voice memo and I read them and be like, yep, still mad. Not gonna go and flourish this and make it sound a bit sweeter. No, just angry. Okay, cool. Angry today. All right, cool. So yeah, music's more like, it's gonna help me be more honest with myself, help me face things I can't really say. And then they write themselves, I guess, when you, like I said, when you try to have a good rapport with the gear, then you're not fumbling too much. You're more like closing your eyes and, okay, so this song's a bit dark today. All right, you want a bit of piano? Okay, let's go get a piano. I realized that those were the things missing when I was first writing music with the guitar. I kept feeling like, but I'm not feeling like a guitar vibes today. But, so I didn't realize that actually different instrumentation, I needed different connections to actually get things out of me. One, like I could not just sit on the piano and just, today I'm feeling sad. And then I write a song on the piano. I have to be like, today I'm feeling sad. Who do I want to hold? I need to hold my OP1 today. Come here, OP1. And I'm like, okay, this feels comforting. Okay, cool. No, it doesn't feel right. Okay, cool. Let's now back to the guitar. Like I need to feel things to make music. I need to like the touch of it or VSTs, like just really listen to it and be like, yes, no. And I realized that because I incubated for a couple of years after I fell out of music at the beginning, that I don't want to lose that connection, right? So even if it's just before bed, just strumming a little bit, just a bit of some chords, just get a feel and stuff like that. When the time comes and I say, okay, it's time to write, I'm not in the mood, you still feel a natural closeness with your gear and your music. So yeah, that's how I write.
I think there's one other thing that I just kind of wanted to maybe expand on a little bit, because I think this kind of goes to the whole rebranding process or whatever you want to call it. In the liner notes on the Bandcamp for the latest album, you've written it's like an album where you found your voice. Can you kind of expand on that idea a little bit?
Yeah, because on Spotify, if you look back at my catalog, I started with very folk singer, songwriter, guitar, acoustic music, and then you can see the evolution of that. And I started to get into like cinematic VSTs, and I was into that vibe. And then I started the OP1 album, the 111 album. And then this album was like a whole entire like culmination of that. It felt like the way I wrote at the beginning was in there, which is on the guitar. I'm probably extremely honest. Like when I write stuff on the guitar, lyrics come out in a way that, oh, we're going there now. Okay, we're going to talk about those feelings, sure. And then synthesizers is almost like a dreamy escape. Like when I play, I almost lose myself. I'm just not thinking. I'm just like, whoa, this sound is taking me somewhere. So I realized that from lyrics to the way I played the synths to the experimentations that I put into it, from spinning the tombola, doing the crank, modular synths, Euro racking, the grandmother Moog, all these things was me really finding what is my voice? What do I want to say through my music? And if someone listened to this album, I wanted them to see me for myself. Like, she sings, she loves synthesizers, she's going through a hard time and she's being really honest with that. It can be a bit vague. That's who she is. And yeah, it really felt like I was being really truthful and I wasn't really hiding anymore. It's still in my veins. And I just realized like, and I know for most people that can still be vague, because my mom listened to the album and she's like, what are you saying there? And I'm like, whew, still there's, yeah, like I felt it was already being too exposed, but people were still feeling like, oh, I took my own vibe into it. I was going through a hard time, and when I heard your song, I just felt relaxed and I wasn't thinking about my problems. And I just went, sweet. You know, if your music can help someone else relax or inspire someone to pick up a gear or inspire someone to get into music and the community, I think that's a win-win, right? But I used to feel so scared with the lyrics that, is it going to expose my true feelings? that I'm still upset about that.
One last thing to talk about specifically about the music, I think it's the use of your voice and the kind of level of processing that you're doing on the voice as well. I find it really interesting, and I find it really interesting when you're kind of using something like reverb as basically like the instrument, and that you're just kind of pushing something through this and then you get something out of it. And it reminds me a lot of the kind of Juliana Barwick style. Can you talk about how you decided on that and not just singing over the top without any kind of extra processing or anything like that?
I think when I started doing music, it was very just guitar and singing. And then when I got into producing, I was just so interested in textures, layers, feelings. It's more about the feeling that you can give someone when you layer that recipe in that delicious way. I just realized that, I don't mind if my Ableton just blows up with like 1,000 layers of vocals, but I want this to come in here, and then I want this to come in there, and I want no lyrics here at all. And then, just singing naturally into this part or speaking some lyrics. And I think that's the fun and joy of producing your own music. You can really just surprise yourself when it comes to how you want to edit this and how you want to process this. And something about these very luscious vocal layers that go in and out, it's almost nostalgic. Like when you listen to it, you almost feel, I'm in this specific place and time, but it's not a specific person that I know speaking to me. But where am I? Like there's a lot of mystery when it comes to these kind of styles of very reverby, lush vocals. And the strangest thing is I get DM'd that the most. Like, which reverb do you use? Which reverb do you use? How do you process your vocals? And the funny thing is, I'm just using the basic reverb on Ableton, and I'm just thinking, really? And the thing is, I've seen a lot of different kinds of reverbs, and I've tried convolution reverbs. And for some reasons, like, it's just too much for me. I'm a very one ingredient, one focus person. So I just thought, hey, just pick one reverb and just be very good at this reverb and just call it a day, because your life is not going to be consumed by reverbs, okay? It's about how you stretch it, how you lay it, and how close I am to the mic. And you might laugh when I say this, but because I'm in a space where there's a lot of foot traffic, so I have to do a lot of vocals in the middle of the night, super early in the morning. And I found ways to just kind of do it with the mic or do it with the hands. And, and sometimes I'm doing vocals where my head's just swishing left and right, rather than letting the reverb do the job. I'm just I'm just going to put some muscle into this and see what happens. Yeah, so it's just that basic reverb on Ableton that I just love using, and just techniques that I've kind of discovered trying to work around a space that has no soundproofing.
Couldn't see any clearer. Couldn't breathe in my heart. Couldn't sleep in my heart. I'm afraid to remember. So sad that I believe you now. That I went too far somehow. And I have mistakes, but I'm so just a breeze.
So how do you, I guess, describe, and then how do you kind of build your overall aesthetic, the aesthetic of Heymun?
I think the aesthetic of Heymun's very DIY. I photographed my own album cover, and I illustrate, the album cover or do the fonting on, Photoshop, Illustrator. It's very DIY, because I think the aesthetic for my music and my branding, if that's the word that we're going to use on this thing, is sustainability. I've always thought to myself, okay, you're going to release an album. You produced it, you recorded it, you did everything, and that didn't cost me, any extra savings. Mastering, of course, I knew that like I had to get it mastered properly. So that cost me, savings there. But anything outside of that, photograph myself, design the album myself. And I never really thought like, okay, this is how I wanted people to see me, where it's like side shot, super cool. For me, it's just like, here, let's just take this shot, because all the other 50 shots, it's just no. Like I would just pick the best out of the 50, and I would just do a couple of designs and just go, okay, that looks pretty fair, and when I'm filming my videos, I guess it comes from my film background, I guess from film school, where natural lighting, put a flower in there. Did you lotion your hands because it's going to look too dry? Like, because these are the things that you're taught, or like on a film set where hair's out of place, we need to touch up makeup. So a lot of times when people message me and say, oh, your aesthetic for your Instagram or for your YouTube is just so amazing, I'm like, I think it's just my OCD. Because it gets drilled into your head when you go on set and you're filming like continuity and why is that hair out of place? We're shooting that same shot. So all of my DIY-ness comes from a bit of the OCD and also a bit of, I guess, the film background that I have, where everything should tell a story and take pride in that, like have fun when you make a video and try different angles and try to give people a mood. I remember a time where someone on YouTube saw my videos and said, I think there's a feeling overall when I come into your YouTube channel. It's almost like it's a series, and there's a specific color tone and there's a specific stillness to the shots. And I'm like, the stillness is because I'm self-shooting. Like I really need to put it on a tripod, and the only thing that's moving is me. But that result of that on a YouTube channel can be very intimate. Like when people come into your channel and they get the feeling that, oh, this person's shooting themselves, I'm in their space, nothing's chaotic, nothing's moving, and the colors are consistently in that kind of tone. It's kind of like watching your favorite TV series and you're like, oh, Westworld is on, I recognize the whole treatment, I'm in this world now, zoom, I'm in, right? So I realized that subconsciously, the things that I was doing on this YouTube channel, they started building themselves up. When I look back, I'm like, look at these couple of hundred of videos that I didn't even consciously think I would even make another one. I just went, make a video, learn something about your gear, make a video, learn something. And that became, I guess, my identity or branding on social media. But on the flip side, as I told you, I always wanted to let people know that here's the work that it takes to get into it. Not too complicated, lock your camera in, have fun. Because you don't want people to feel like, oh, it took a whole production just to light that thing like that. Because then it becomes unrealistic. It just becomes a highlight reel and people just go, nah, I love music, I don't love making videos. So I always want to bridge that gap. I just want to be like, it's the same thing. Like it's easy, it's simple. Use what you have and use it really, really well. Get so acclimated with that. And then suddenly your identity will shape itself. Your branding will come out itself.
Look up, the skies falling, and I think of you who calms my skin. I don't feel. Take me as
How are you finding being on YouTube and growing an audience through social media like YouTube and Instagram?
I think the best thing that I realized about social media, YouTube, Instagram, is community. I felt like I was just at the beginning before I found a community of friends that we jam together. We put out music videos every week, and we keep, we keep each other company, and we check in on each other, like, how's it going over there? And I have some friends now, Australia, America, France, and I didn't realize that community would be literally the foundation of everything I was going to do when I came back to music, because I'm very keep to myself kind of person at work. Even if somebody at work was listening to a podcast, they would just go, I think she's talking a lot today. Because even in the past, like, I wouldn't feel like having lunch with people at my office was something I was comfortable doing, because I just thought, let's just all be really professional and just not know too much about each other, because, boundaries get stepped. But in community, I realized, like, I had no fear. These people were like family, like my friends. And so this idea of just like, it's not about followers or likes or counts. I realized that I really want to meet people that I could have tea with one day. I could have a meal with, and we could grow old together, and we could really say, hey, we really gave it our best. Like, during the time that we had with music, I just wanted to make genuine memories and make genuine friends. The numbers came along with that, and opportunities came, but I realized that what would I be without my family? What would I be without my community? What would I be without people like Billy, Barry? And their names they're not usernames to me. I know their usernames, but I know their real names. I know how they're doing this week. And you start to forget that, hey, we need to survive in this. Like, it's all about growth. It's all about getting yourself out there. I realized that it works better for my personality type, that I just focus on community, and whatever happens, happens. I never go to my account and just go, oh, it's grown from last year, I just look at my account and I just think, I learned so much about my friend in Paris this year. I learned that he went to celebrate Christmas at his grandma's house outside of France. And it just made me feel like this is what social media can do. It can actually let me meet people that has made me come out of my shell. Like, I'm talking to somebody that I've never spoken to before, that I may never have the chance to speak to if I didn't do music, if I didn't put it out on Instagram.
I was born to make them happier. I just long to be with you alone. With you
I really used to think music was about fulfilling that side of me, that unanswered question. But as I'm making music, I'm thinking, it's so much funner than that when it's not just about you. It's so much funner when you actually care.
How do you see yourself within the kind of ambient genre, or do you see yourself more as an electronic music producer or something like that, or what are your kind of general thoughts about the genre at the moment?
I think when I first got into ambient music, I explored different types of ambient. Like, I remember doing dance ambient, and because I'm so new to the genre, I only got into it in 2018, that I was just so new to it. I didn't know how many people were doing it. And then as I was doing it, I started connecting with more people that were doing ambient music. And I realized, oh, so we have the tape ambient community, which is super badass, man. Like, that sounds amazing. And then we have the ambient vocals. And then we have the dance ambient. So there's just, even within ambient, there's so many beautiful like subgenres within ambient. And I found myself floating in between just wanting to explore. For me, it was about not being afraid to just keep exploring what that gear wanted to say, rather than, this fell into this fell into that. I realized that my mind was just, wow, I really don't know what kind of ambient there is. And my ambient's just floating within, she's dancey today, and then she's cinematic today, and there's a bit cello today. I think mine is still in the, I've just been described as more soundtrack cinematic ambient. That's something that I get told very often, where it's a track, but it's also like something you'd hear in a film or a TV show. They always think, oh, your music would sound so good if it's in this show, if it's in that show. And I realized that, my film thing really is in my DNA now, you know? I think those two worlds just collided. So for me, how I see myself would be ambient, soundtrack, cinematic. And lately I've been getting some job opportunities to score closer to that soundtrack TV series show kind of thing. And I realized maybe people who are listening to my music, it's finding a place in their work.
Circling back to YouTube and the community aspect of everything, collaborating with other musicians and other music makers, but also kind of, gear developers and that kind of thing. How do you go about setting these collaborations up, and like, where do you sit within those collaborations?
I started doing collaborations with brands 2 years ago. I think the first experience for me, like collaborating with a brand or being close to a brand or whatever you want to call it, was Teenage Engineering. They saw my stuff on Instagram, and I was approached to be a Teenage Engineering mentor. And again, I was like, yes! I didn't, like, before I even knew what it entailed, because I just loved their gear so much. I just thought, hey, whatever they have in store, whatever they want to do, I mean, I'm so up for it. And that was my first time actually, as a person, as a musician, ever communicating with a brand. And to me, they were the pinnacle of the brand that I actually wanted to even have them know I was alive. Like, because I was using their stuff and I was just thinking, oh, if they knew how much I love their stuff, I could just go crazy and just talk to them all day. So what happened was I got approached to be a Teenage Engineering mentor, and I said yes. And then I remember someone from TE was actually in Sydney for a trip, and they were like, hey, do you want to meet up? And I was just like, oh, yes, I do. So she was really lovely. She met me for lunch. And again, I've not worked with brands before. I've not kind of been close to brands before. So that was the first time I met someone from Teenage Engineering. And it really made me realize that we're living in a time that we're so lucky that social media can have us connect directly with brands. And if they love what you're doing, they see that the way that you're using their instruments is innovative, super cool, and you're really making music that people also see their gear in a way like, oh wow, OP1 can ambient. Like, I love ambient music. And so I realized that, wow, I used to fear like, oh, what is it like to actually collaborate with people? Because I'm such a stick to myself kind of person. But after my experience with Teenage Engineering, like Genki Instruments from Iceland reached out to me and said, hey, we have this ring, this wave ring that I think it's really great. See if you want to look into it, if it's something you're going to use. And I always look into the brand and I always see like, is this going to fit what I'm doing? Like, is this my vibe? And can I really make it sing? Like, I'm not just going to say yes for the sake of saying yes. I really wanted to also build a foundation of, why am I saying yes? I know that in this day and age in social media, freebies, free stuff, it almost feels like a validation. Like when brands come to you and be like, I'm going to give this to you for free. Can you just use it and Insta story it? I know that it almost felt like the rite of passage, like, you're doing something right? But I told myself, like, if you have a platform and you don't filter out the things that you're going to show your audience, and you're going to start losing that connection because it won't seem authentic. So when I paired with TE, a lot of like my friends felt like, that was a natural progression for me because I was buying their stuff. I was investing in their stuff. I was using it for years, before I became like a TE mentor, for example. So I realized that it taught me that collaborations are fun, but I really had to make sure that it really fit who I was as a person. So I've done a few, and for those that I've done, I've really felt genuinely that I'm super excited by what Genki Instruments in Iceland are doing. I love what Teenage Engineering is doing. And some things I've said no to as well, if I just didn't feel like, like that's a cool gear and stuff, but I already have something that's quite similar. I'm not going to say yes just to hoard it. And I also introduce other musicians to them that I say, look, this person's actually more up your alley. And we should feel comfortable doing that as musicians. We shouldn't feel like I'm one person, all the brands love me. I really feel like it's okay to be like, look, that person's doing this kind of vibe. They're going to play the fire out of your gear, and you're going to be happy doing that. This year I collaborated with a sculptor from California, and I never thought that those two worlds would collide so beautifully, because I get a lot of collaboration messages, but I never know like, hey, who's really serious about making this work? Because when I collab with people, like I put in the time, I put in the work, and I want it to shine, right? So it's people who are persistent with me that usually I realize like, oh, okay, this is not just a, hey, let's just do something. It's more like, hey, I really, really want you to do something, and this is what I want you to do with me. Once that vision becomes clear, I'm very motivated. So when this Plastic Cell, they do a lot of amazing sculptures in America, was doing this, The Witcher, was sculpting, Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, that TV series. So Danny was doing this amazing sculpture of The Witcher, and Danny was like, hey, do you want to score some music for my video? And I'm just like, yeah, I really do. And I spent the whole session, did nothing but score that entire thing. And I've never felt more new to a genre and new to a collaboration, but also very familiar. I felt like some collaborations, even though I've never done them before, something will tell you in your heart that, hey, we're going to be a good fit. This is a good vibe. we're going to make a very great memory and a really great project together.
What are you listening to at the moment?
Usually it's the sleep piano playlist on Spotify or anything to do with classical instrumentation. Because as I told you, if I listen to music, I become very active. If I want to relax, I need to watch a TV show that's completely... I just need to watch TV shows that don't get me too sucked in. I have to watch really... whatever TV show I can get my hands on that I don't get to, whatever. Okay, so music that I'm listening to, yeah, usually just the sleep piano playlist on Spotify, or a lot of cello and a lot of strings. I just have to listen to a lot of strings and piano if I'm not working, because most of the time I'm dabbling in music. And I'm always listening to the same sound on repeat because, you know, we're refining things on Ableton. It's like, like my partner has said from day one, how do you musicians listen to the same thing for weeks and days? Like, don't you all find it really jarring and annoying? I was like, oh no, it's fine, really. And I didn't even realize that those things could bother someone that's not in music. The repetition of a sound could literally drive someone else nuts who's not into music. Yeah, but for me, when I listen to piano or when I listen to strings, it really kind of just takes me out of my studio and I'm just listening to that sound, just listening to all that detail. I love it when the cello's really gritty and it's recorded really just raw. I just love when I can hear like fingers on the strings, imperfections and things like that. Like felt pianos, you can almost hear that all these creaks and sounds on a piano, like those things really get me relaxed. So sounding a little bit like a strange, when I tell this to my friends, they're like, that's very Dexter of you. That is wonderful. It's good to know that your playlist is just creaking noises and felt pianos touching. I'm like, well, it's so relaxing to hear instruments played really well and to hear them shine and one focused instrument at a time. Like my mind just eats that up, you know? I just really love it.
Look up, the sky's full, and I think of you who come You cross my skin. Oh,
The track you just heard was You off the album Hymn.
Alex, hello.
Hey,
Welcome back. This is our first episode back.
it is after our brief hiatus.
How brief is a 3-month hiatus?
Yeah.
Well, we had a great interview with Heymun, didn't we?
Mm.
How did you feel about it?
She spoke like really, really well.
Yeah.
And what I liked about it was just like super positive.
Yeah. She's very positive, very upbeat.
Totally. And it was just like a super positive story of just pure drive, hard work, and passion.
Yeah.
Like the way she talked about, just going and buying a guitar, just going, like learning to play keyboards.
Learning, like just jumping into like an Ableton class and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then the way she kind of like blew up as well. Like even she said she was like super green and all this stuff's going down. And it's just like, I can't even imagine what that'd be like. But,
it's kind of a funny story, right? Like you go through this kind of very quick rise to a certain extent, and to, I guess, being in that situation, kind of being naive and being, in that position and just having all these things
thrown at
you and being like, I guess she was kind of like a yes man in a sense.
Yeah.
Just being like yes to everything and, jumping on a plane and doing shows in New York and like other people, it's kind of like the dream, right? And then she's kind of gone into it and then obviously kind of stepped back from that.
Yeah.
And now is making completely different music from what she was making to begin with. I think that's really interesting to go from the singer-songwriter path into this kind of very textural, ambient, electronic field. She reminds me very much, especially the way she treats her vocals, of like the kind of Juliana Barwicks or the Groupers and that kind of thing. Very kind of, just a keyboard or a synthesizer and then a rack of reverb. And it's just really interesting. What else did you take from it? Aside from the general positive vibes.
I have to say, the only other thing I really have to add is just like respect for going at it about the way she did.
Yeah.
She said she studied film. She thought that's what she wanted to do, but she kind of always, thought about, I want to do music, and coming from Malaysia to Australia, she's like, a bit unsure about it, but respect for, going at it and going at it 100%.
Yeah.
And like, all I can say is respect. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think the film thing is another really big thing to pick up on as well. And obviously huge like props for you, just singularly focused in a way, right? Just I'm trying to focus in on the music, but the film thing is another thing that I think adds to her overall aesthetic. And I think these things are just kind of subconscious, right?
Yeah.
You would spend all this time in film school learning about shot composition and that kind of thing. And then obviously you would engross yourself in like watching movies and that kind of thing. And that's where I think kind of bleeds into the music.
Well,
and if you watch her YouTube videos, she has a very clear visual aesthetic that goes along with the YouTube videos.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's another skill set, another
creative skill. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That like works really well the way she can intertwine the two.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, it was a great interview, and I want to thank Heymun for coming on the show. It was a fantastic, fun, very positive, very fun interview. And I want to thank you, the listener, for listening. You know what to do. You know the drill. Rate and review. Subscribe if you like. Leave a like somewhere. Tell a friend. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye.